A misconception that I think a lot of people have about being self-employed is that it's easy. It's not. It's a challenge. You've got to show up every day and you've got to find that self-motivation from within. That's probably one of the hardest things I think about working for yourself.
You are listening to the Self-Employed Success Podcast. This is your source for inspiration, advice, and strategies for building financial independence without a traditional corporate job. Each episode features interviews with successful entrepreneurs, freelancers, and business owners who have achieved financial freedom through self-employment. Whether you're just starting out on your entrepreneurial journey or you're a seasoned pro looking for new ideas, this podcast will give you the tools and insights you need to create a life and business that you love. Join us as we explore the world of self-employment and learn how to build the income, the freedom, and fulfillment you deserve. Today, I have the privilege of speaking with Link Moser, a self-made entrepreneur who has defied the odds and built a successful business. Link Moser is a self-employed entrepreneur who started his entrepreneurial journey at the young age of 12. When he got a job at a landscape nursery, but only lasted for 3 months. He then continued to work odd jobs like mowing lawns and snow removal and answered an ad in the newspaper to help with a local real estate company doing marketing. Link believes that the key to success as a self-employed worker is having the mindset to be open to opportunities and to drive the bus. He also emphasizes in our conversation the importance of balancing work and personal life and recommends having a separate workspace to help with this balance. I'm as excited as you are to hear his story and learn from his experiences as a self-employed individual. Let's start the show, but first, a quick word from one of our sponsors.
When I was 12 years old, my dad felt it was time for me to go out and get a job. And there happened to be a landscape nursery just down the road from where we grew up. And so he got me a job down there, and I don't remember what it paid per hour, but I'm sure it was pretty low. And it was all manual labor. And I hated that job. I mean, an hour felt like 3. And I think I only lasted 3 months before I said, this is not for me. And I don't know if it was that experience that set me on a course for working for myself. Perhaps I decided then that, boy, I don't want to ever work for someone again. But since then, and I'm 47 years old now, I have not collected a W-2. And I don't say that to boast. I have been on the entrepreneurial path ever since I was in high school.
That's absolutely fascinating. I have to tell you, my daughter is heading to college and we have the conversation of her building a career, but yet she's seeing her mom building a business coming from the corporate world. And so it's interesting how your dad gave you this job and you at an early age, you're like, yeah, this is not for me. So it sounds like, for you listening and you're thinking, yeah, that's exactly where I am. And yes, Link, you are young, but you don't have to be young to feel that way. What was it like to start your own path?
My parents had some small businesses, none that did terribly well, but I got a little experience doing some marketing while I was still in high school. I had every plan of going to college. It wasn't that I didn't think I wasn't going to, but family circumstances, parents got divorced. They didn't have any money. So I ended up taking a year off from college and then answered an ad in the newspaper to help with a local real estate company doing some marketing. I was always pretty good with a computer. When I was about 20 years old, someone said to me, why don't you design websites? This was 1995. So the internet was still very brand new at the time. I know what a website is, but I've got no idea how to design one. Bought a book, Teach Yourself HTML in 14 days. And I taught myself how to build websites. That was at about 20 years old. And at the same time, I had neighbors getting into real estate. So they said, hey, Link, why don't you get your real estate license? I had no idea what life as a real estate agent was like, but I'm pretty good at taking tests. I found myself studying for that exam and I became a real estate agent as well. So I fell into these 2 tracks, which I've continued to be in for the last 25 plus years. And, some years it's a little more. And the entrepreneurial journey is a hard one to map out, especially you're looking much past a few years out. And so for me, I don't ever remember thinking that, boy, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. I just kind of went down that road and saw where it took me.
It's always so fascinating to me to hear the stories of amazing self-employed individuals like yourself. From what I just heard Link share with us here, one of the strategies that he made sure to implement, and Link, feel free to chime in and confirm this with me, but you made sure that you kept on learning to stay on track, achieved this self-employment success for yourself. You kept on learning. You had opportunities come your way. You looked into them. You were willing to grow. Am I right? This is one of the biggest strategies to maintain a successful self-employment life, isn't it?
Absolutely. I've never stopped learning. And in fact, the older I get, the more I feel like I'm behind the curve because so much to learn and not enough hours in the day. You've got to have the mindset to be open to that and to be open to opportunity because you don't know where it's going to come from. And it's a contact sport. I've never been employed for someone else. Now I've worked as part of teams and groups, but I think one of the big differentiators is that motivation has to come from within. It's very outbound if you think of if you're working for a boss and they tell you, here's what you've got to do for the day or the week, that's a little more reactionary. And someone else is kind of driving that for you, I would imagine. Whereas when you're self-employed, it's 100% on you to drive that bus. And that both can be scary and it can also be invigorating because I have never felt that there was a limit put on me by what I could earn or what I could accomplish. Those limits were only placed by me and inside my head. It wasn't someone else saying, this is your pay level. You know, if you want to change it, you've got to get a different job. Or I think that's a big, big difference right there.
I love that you pointed out this different. And listen, I can absolutely relate. I got laid off during the pandemic. I spent probably the first 6 weeks just working on my mindset. Although I had already started my business while sitting at this cubicle for almost 2 decades, I still felt the need to make sure that I understood just that it was up to me. And if I did not get off that couch, nothing would happen, right? And so I love that you shared that it's really in the mindset. And for you listening, you're doing the right thing listening to us today. And for listening all the way to this point, this tells Link and I that you are invested. And so before we end this episode, Link, I'm fairly new in this self-employment. Like I mentioned to you, I was recently laid off. And the other day I was saying to my husband, I'm like, I feel so weird because I have so many things that I'm juggling, right? Not only am I a podcast host, I'm also an adjunct professor in several universities. I took that on. I'm also a consultant for marketing, social media and whatnot. And I'm like, is this what the self-employment life is? I love it. But guess what? As a self-employed individual, we have to learn how to balance it all. We don't always do it well. And so how do you navigate that balance to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, your work, and your personal life all at the same time?
I'm so glad you asked this question because it is very, very important for us as entrepreneurs to balance our time. In this day and age of 24/7 access through phone, text, when I started, obviously the internet was not what it is today, and it was a little bit easier to unplug. Now, that being said, I remember when I was working in my 20s, weekends and weekdays would kind of blur together because I didn't have a family. I was able to just hammer out work as it was there whenever I wanted. But as I got older, I realized I needed to create a little more balance there. So a couple tips that I would recommend: have a separate workspace, quote, on the clock, if you will. I've always had a home office, be it a spare bedroom, basement, or a garage, whatever it is. I find that I need to have a physically separate space, which I am in during my work hours. Now, that's not to say that I'm not sitting on the couch watching TV with a laptop, answering some emails after hours. but I choose to do that. But it's different. It's sort of off hours time for me. And so I don't like to spend time in my quote office on the weekends unless there's something I really got to do. I think that's having those boundaries. Now that I do have a family, I've got 5 kids and my wife is a stay-at-home mom. So there's 7 of us here. And so I tailor my work hours around school hours and partly because it's quiet here, but also because I want to have that balance. So if you have others in your home, spouse, kids, many of those maybe, school is on a fixed schedule. So I kind of parallel those hours and that works for me to kind of create that work-life balance. Depending on what you do, you can pick that, but you've got to have that. Taking care of yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually are all parts of that balance. So the beauty of it is that we can go out on a nice day and go for a walk, go for a run, come in a little late, come a little out. So we have that flexibility and that's a real nice part of it. Work will always be there. It'll be there tomorrow, the next day. You've got to keep yourself focused, I think. So having a separate space, resisting the urge to respond to calls and emails after hours, even if you see them, I have learned that if you respond, people will know that you are available then. Want to keep a little separation on nights and weekends? You've got to do it. Just don't, if you can try not to check your email, great. But otherwise, just don't respond unless it's an emergency or something.
I love that. And I have to piggyback on that. Or you could use scheduling your emails, right? I mentioned it.
Yes. Yep, I do that. And that way I don't have to look at them. They're in the queue, they're done, and then just schedule it and it goes out Monday morning.
I love it. I thought I was the only one. Perfect.
No.
This is so good. Excellent. Now, there you have it. Listen, it's so critical. I remember I started in the dining room and then I moved into the living room. Then I was in my bedroom at some point, and that's when I was building and working my 9 to 5, right? I spent some time in the laundry room actually. And today I'm in the den and I'm actually loving it because I have very large windows and the sunlight, right? When I walk in, the room just really motivates me. And I'm right there with you in regards to working during school hours. In fact, that's what I've started implementing and it's working very well for me. Because I know I have that time frame. And once my son gets off the bus, I'm all for him, and it's awesome.
Yep. It is. And I will, that's where I will pick things back up at the end of the day, sometimes after the dinner and bedtime hour is done. And so, that's time for me to do lighter duty tasks, maybe just going through some emails and responding to things or just taking care of some stuff. But it's, certainly not a time, at least for me, for calls and things. So I really try to stick to that hour. And I think having a dedicated workspace, if your space allows that, helps a lot because it's kind of like anything else, like exercising or just, for me, it's sort of a mental piece of that. So I would not set it up in one's dining room or living room or bedroom if you can do it. Even a basement is better, I think, just to have dedicated workspace.
Absolutely. And for you listening, and feel like, I don't have a lot of space. I'm in an apartment. I don't have a big house. Listen, what we're saying here, dedicate a space. This is where when you walk in, whether it's the corner of your bedroom somewhere, listen, I've worked several times in my closet. I'm being honest with you because I needed that space and that door, right? You can make it happen. So the takeaway here, make the space, build working hours, right, for yourself and set boundaries. Wonderful. Are you looking to start a podcast and see this episode show notes for my unique promo code to get up to 2 months of free podcasting service with Libsyn when you sign up for a new account? Get your show on Apple and Spotify and beyond. Get helpful audience building stats and all the support you need to sound your best. They can even do video. Bring your podcast to life and have your voice heard here, there, and everywhere with Libsyn. Again, see the show notes for my unique Libsyn promo code and get podcasting. What a great conversation this was. I am absolutely honored that you have taken the time out of your busy schedule to hang out with us today. and share your real life self-employment success, right? And I'm sure the women or the gentleman listening right now would love to find out more about you. Where do you hang out online? If you're on social, where can we connect with you? Where's the best place?
I would say the best spot is on LinkedIn. I have pretty active there. And again, with a name like Moser, it's not too hard to find me. I've also got a website, which is my name, moser.com. So certainly happy to connect with anybody. And, the entrepreneurial journey can be lonely. It can be lonelier and confusing. You've got to have a support network there. And whether it's other entrepreneurs, ideally, I think that helps to have people who kind of understand the challenges, but it could be a friend. It could be a spouse. It could be somebody else that's just there to be a sounding board and maybe even a little bit of accountability, because there's some days that it's really, really tough. And you've got to, as you said, dig down deep and get off that couch and push forward. But I think you also have to allow for some of those days to happen and not be so hard on yourself. I once read that entrepreneurs and people that are self-employed can be so much more self-critical and hard on themselves. And I've victim of that myself on many a days. And I'm not saying I fixed it, but I think if you recognize it, give yourself a free pass once in a while and, stop early if you need to. And just, again, take a break. It's a long distance race here. It's not a sprint. So one day at a time.
Love it. So good. Now I feel better because I used to feel bad taking a nap in the middle of the day.
If you need it, you take it.
Right? Oh, how wonderful was this? Thank you so much again, Link, for coming on the show. My pleasure. I look forward to staying connected with you. And I look forward for the listeners to check out the show notes of this episode and connect with you as well. I'm excited to share my journey and tips on how I've been able to successfully navigate the ups and downs of being self-employed. As someone who was recently laid off from my corporate job, I understand the challenges and uncertainty that come with this transition. But I've also discovered the benefits and opportunities that come with being your own boss. I hope my experiences and insights can help guide and inspire you on your own self-employment journey. Check out the show notes so you can subscribe today.